Today on the Videomaker podcast, Chris and I talk all about copyright. We cover a number of topics, including copyrighted music, copyrighted images and video, kind of the basics of how fair use works. We can talk a little bit about the gray areas of fair use, what's considered transformative, that kind of thing. And we talk about how you can copyright your own work and protect it from, being ripped off by someone else in the future. As always, if you've been listening to the podcast and you enjoy it, we'd love it if you went to iTunes or Spotify or Stitcher or whatever app you like to use and subscribe to us there. It's a real help to the podcast and hopefully a convenience for you. And if you are interested in supporting the podcast, the best way you can do that is to sign up for our newsletter. And I have a new link for everyone this week. Go to videomaker.com/enews today. And you can sign up. We will send you emails a few times a week that contain tutorials and reviews and buyer's guides and all that stuff from Videomaker.com, which everyone seems to love. So I'm sure you'll love it too. So with all that out of the way, let's get on with the show. Welcome to the Videomaker podcast. I'm Mike Wilhelm, and with me, as always, is Chris Monlux.
Hello.
And Chris, there's like a new theme. We're going to make a new segment, I think, at the beginning of every show, which is Mike and Chris try out some new audio gear.
Yeah.
So we've been testing out preamps, I guess.
Yeah, they're inline preamps for dynamic or ribbon microphones, specifically.
And now also we have a new microphone to test.
Yeah. So this is the SE Electronics. Let's see here if I can read it through the pop filter. SE2200, and it's a condenser microphone, which is different than your mic, which is a dynamic microphone.
So something I learned recently about pop filters, this is a little bit of a tangent. I don't know if you know anything about this, but apparently I've always gone under the assumption that pop filters are kind of required for human voice. Mm-hmm. And two things have popped up, no pun intended, recently, at least to me, news to me, that you don't need a pop filter depending on your microphone sometimes. And then secondly, software kind of deals with all these pops these days. And that you have a pop filter now, but actually don't really need it.
Yeah, it's to save yourself some time in post, but it's not something that's available in everything. So I use Isotope RX8, and you can get rid of plosives and DS stuff. And there's been outboard gear to do this for a long time, but this microphone's more sensitive, I guess, but it's definitely going to be for when someone's singing hard, into a microphone. And sometimes when you do that, the quality of the audio changes a little bit, by the things that you remove, and maybe that's special or maybe it's not. Hopefully it's not. I'm actually feeling like I need to move mine closer because I feel like it's most of the room, and I normally am not closer. Yeah, see, that's.
Oh yeah, you sound very, very close now.
Now I a little bit closer and warmer and whatnot, not the big room sound.
But no pops with that thing.
Nope.
Okay, well, cool that we got the new mic, I guess.
And you're trying the SE Electronics. What did I say it was? The Dynamite.
Yeah, the preamp.
The preamp, yeah. Yep. So another inline one, so we can compare the different ones Mike's done on the same microphone, and I've been just trying out different microphones. Mm-hmm.
I guess we should do a whole episode on microphones sometime and in studio audio recording. There's a bunch to say there, but we got another topic today.
Yeah.
So today, a really super exciting topic. Actually, it's not that exciting, I don't think, but a lot of people have questions about this stuff, which is copyright.
Yeah, it's the thing is it's double-sided, right? So you want to make sure that you're covered on your work, and then you also want to make sure you're not taking somebody else's work, right? Yeah. These are two of the same coin, but you're affected obviously differently by each side. And so it's really good to make sure you know what you can do and what you can't do to stay safe on the work that you make, and also how you can be protected under law that's your original material.
Yeah, and there's some people who want to do the right thing and other people who want to just avoid getting caught for doing the wrong thing. Yeah. We're going to kind of ignore that second group. Yeah. We're not going to give you any advice on how to skirt the system.
Yeah, it's not the right way to do it, and quite frankly, it should be paid for. Otherwise, really, your production is not budgeted correctly.
Yeah, that's right. So one caveat right up front, we're not lawyers and you should not consider this legal advice.
Yes.
That being said, if you're interested in any of these topics, we've got some resources for you. Actually, we'll probably refer to a video or two throughout. But also, if you go to videomaker.com and hit the Learn tab, go down to legal. Our legal columnist is a practicing copyright lawyer. So he has a lot of fantastic advice there. That also is not legal advice until you actually enlist his services, but the information is good. So I think maybe the number one question that people have generally is, I might be wrong about this, but what are the rules surrounding music usage? I remember, Chris, when I was just up and coming in the video space, and this was really like as YouTube itself was kind of up and coming as well, there was this assumption where, well, as long as you use less than 30 seconds of the music clip, you're pretty much safe. You don't have to worry about it. That's a myth.
Yeah, totally myth. It's funny is I can't say I've heard anything. It seemed like a lot of these things were made justifications so you could use it, right?
Yeah.
And I heard it a lot because I was making work in small area, and so no one's going to see it. You can make an ad. We're going to use Mustang Sally to sell Mustangs at the local Ford dealer. No, it doesn't matter how big your market is. Doesn't matter. You can't use it without obtaining the rights to the music. And there's a lot of, I remember being confused by synchronization rights, which was the idea of using music within your video or edited with it, which is the difference between it playing on the radio in the room that you're in while you're shooting and it being added to while you're editing. And but then you go, oh, well, then what I'll do is I'll put it in the back of the ground of the thing, and I'll plan it all so it'll be all natural sound, but I'll get to use the song then, right? And it's like, nope, now you're overcoming the intent. And of course, you're then going to get this weird sounding audio or whatever. And I definitely saw some commercials of people trying to just have it playing in the background, so it's just one long take, and that's kind of gray, but still you should pay for it because gray when it comes to the money that you might be fined for it, or even your freedom for that matter, is that it's not worth it.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's a whole industry around this, right? We would all love to use, whatever a Beatles song in our next ad or our next movie or whatever. And that's what the Beatles are counting on, right? They want everyone to be into their songs and use them all over the place so they can get paid. But this whole industry has popped up basically to help people have music for their videos without having to go through the rigmarole and the expense of, trying to pay, the Beatles or the estate or whoever owns the Beatles right now, the crazy prices to get those songs. So, this is royalty-free music, right? You can Google royalty-free music and come up with a million companies that will license you, music for videos or other purposes that's, they're not pop songs, basically.
Yeah, well, and some of them can be sound-alikes and all the rest. But, I mean, let's face it, is does it really take that well-known hook? Well, yeah, if you're making a Ford commercial for the Super Bowl and then you pay for it, or you just need something that'll work, and it's gotten so much better over the years. I mean, this used to be, I remember when I first started, we had just a rack full of discs. We had like 500 discs, and we wrote on the discs the songs we had used for other ads, so you wouldn't use it for somebody else's ad. That was such a pain in the butt, putting in a CD player, playing the song along with your cut, going, did that work? I don't know. And now you go to a website, you can search by all sorts of features and whatnot. And for a wide range of costs, get music that'll fit your need. And the cool thing is, it kind of reminds me of, I think there's an insurance company that's out there right now making an ad that's talking about you only pay for what you need. And that's the big idea with royalty-free music and the production music in general. If you're paying for it, know what you're using it for, and don't pay for it to have to be able to run it on TV. If you're not running the thing on TV, that's an added cost. That's the good ways of getting around some of the added costs. Is you might not need to have a worldwide license for this. It might just need to be in the United States. So there's a lot of things, but also be aware of that if you're selling something to an international client or what have you, that you want to have those rights, and you want to make sure that that's covered in the price that you have, because that are all the little small things in buying royalty-free music. But the cool thing is they have everything, and it's really high quality these days. I mean, there's definitely people that are just writing and recording music knowing this. And for someone that's actually written music for a commercial, what you don't think about is it's a 30-second commercial. If you want the song to end at 30 seconds, it can only be a certain speed. And so it can be really, really fast, or it could be, and it might not be the speed that you want it to be. And so this is some difficult stuff to write for sometimes. I think about, like, what are these guys thinking about what they're making the music for? Mm-hmm. You know, because these are people that are composers that are probably writing stuff for, specific music, maybe even scoring something. But, you know, are they going, oh, this is going to be some kind of action sequence? And sure enough, I mean, you end up... the really good places that sell music ends up getting into the zeitgeist, and you start hearing it in places. I definitely, for the amount of music I have tried out for all the different projects and videos and whatnot that I've made, I've heard the music everywhere. And you're like, oh, looks like ESPN is now licensed with this, company, or, you know, because you end up hearing it in all their promos, and it's like a package, and it makes sense. Now, the good thing is, I think there's a lot of options around that, and finding just musicians to do it. And that's what I would say is, like, you know, what's way better than, you know, stealing someone's music? Finding a local composer and having them score your stuff. It will probably be really cool, because it'll be an original piece for your work. That is, if it's narrative or really benefits from that. But likely you're going to find someone that can do that, because there's a lot of opportunities that musicians aren't aware of that they get really excited to be proposed to.
Yeah. So there's, like you said, a huge, range of costs here. Down from nothing, you know, you can get royalty-free music on YouTube, and there's probably something in the terms where you can only use it on YouTube.
Yeah, if you use it on YouTube, it's free. Yeah.
Yeah.
Though I hear that stuff all over the place too.
I hear something right now, actually. We do this every time, you know that? I do this every time.
I was shooting in here earlier, and the AC came on, and I'm like, okay, now all I want is I want to make sure it stays on while I'm recording, so I don't have my audio changing throughout. But you know, usually you add a little bit of music on there and you never hear it. But for this stuff, we don't have music underneath it, so it definitely can be heard more. And I'm guessing, like this, the condenser microphone, it's definitely a more sensitive microphone, so it probably is picking that stuff up a little bit better.
Okay, we'll turn off in a second here. But at any rate, as you're saying, you can get something, you know, some music for free that way. There's another way you can get it for free, by the way, which is Creative Commons, which I think you're walking through a minefield here. Creative Commons is basically the creator of content has flagged it to say that, you know, you can use this in other works, you know, as long as you meet these certain criteria. And it's usually something like, give me credit for it, or whatever, or non-commercial, or whatever the purpose is. The downside to that is sometimes the search engines that help you find Creative Commons work contains content that it wasn't actually published and put up by the original creator, the copyright owner.
Yeah.
So if you're very careful about that, and you can confirm that the work that you're finding is actually owned by the uploader, then that's one way of finding some free stuff.
Yeah, you know, and that goes the same way. I've come in contact with that with doing, I think it's freesounds.org. And so it's people that just go record things out in the field, and then they give people the sound. But they usually have requirements as far as how they, you know, if it's just a mention of their name or whatever it is. And I've seen that. I mean, you'll find that in a lot of places, and you'll just need to be really mindful that you qualify. I've seen it on font sites that are giving you, you know, you can get a free font as long as you're not using it for commercial use or that kind of thing. And it's like, well, if you're using it for commercial use, don't get it. That's just not the right thing.
Yeah. But other than that, you know, the best way to do this, I think, is to go to one of these royalty-free sites. I really like the all-you-can-eat sites. Yeah. And just, you know, shell out the money for it. These are not expensive tracks. You know, you can get them for what, $20-$50 for a song, and then you got this track that's broken up into all these different durations. You know, you need the 15-second cut, or you need the 1-minute cut. They have that so that, you know, the what do they call it? The crescendo of the song ends at just the right moment when you need it to.
Exactly. And the interesting thing about that is that's also one of those things that some of these sites, they'll sell you just the stems. They'll sell you just the shorts.
But for quick jargon, define stems.
Stems are the individual tracks, so the drums by themselves. And so you'll have 10 tracks. But it won't be like the drums, like a kick drum and a snare.
Right.
It'll be drums.
Right.
And it'll be every instrument at the volume. So if you lay them all in and you just play it, it's probably just the exact song. But now you have control to turn things off and turn up or down the volume of different instruments, which can be really helpful because like a guitar solo in the middle of someone trying to talk, man, that stinks. And I've had that a couple times. Great song, works really great. And all of a sudden they break into a guitar solo and it's like, again, one of those things, what did you write this for? And that's why actually production music is really great because you won't run into those kinds of things as often. I mean, you still will, but it's not like, every Led Zeppelin song that has 4 solos in it. You want to use a Zeppelin song, you're going to have to find the cool little melody and just flip it around.
Yeah.
And, I can't imagine it's going to be cheap.
So a lot of these sites have, that's $20, $50, whatever the cost is for the individual one, or you might have a subscription. But a lot of times they'll have an upcharge if you want to use it, like you said, internationally, or on TV or on the radio.
Yeah. Or carte blanche. Like they've had ones that's just like all you can eat everywhere. It's open. And you're just, paying for the ability to play it in other markets. And because the world is not like a communal copyrighted location, there are just different regions that you're paying the piper to be able to show it in that region.
Otherwise, if you want to go for like an actual pop song, you can do that, something that's not royalty free. By paying royalties.
Yes.
Just as an example here. So when I was doing commercials, we had the same thing you did, Chris, where it was like a library of CDs. We used FirstCom. And everything we did, we used those royalty-free discs. Except for one client, I won't give away. I think, Chris, you might know who this is, but they wanted an old 60s show tune. And they insisted on it. They're like, I want to know how much it's going to cost to get this song. So I'm like, I don't think you can afford it. And she said, look it up anyways. And I did. And, the delta here is like, you're going from $200 for the song, I think is probably what FirstCom was at the time. This one, after I told the licensing company, how many people would hear it, they came back and said, this is going to cost you $30,000, for this one campaign. So that's the delta, and this is not a modern pop song. This is from the 1960s, and we're not talking the Beatles either.
Yeah. And it can be really tricky too sometimes. So like the Beatles don't own the rights to the songs anymore. That wasn't at the time. Their contracts didn't allow them to have that. Michael Jackson bought them. So they've been sold all over the place, but they get money when stuff happens, but they don't own enough of it to say if it can be in a commercial or not. But sometimes you find that it's 3 parties that all own 30%. Right. Now you have to get an agreement between all of those parties. And so it's a weird thing. I mean, you're going to have to get an agent involved and stuff. So you're paying people just to facilitate those things because it isn't like you just go to a site, make an offer and they do it. The big movies most of the time end up putting songs that aren't on albums onto their soundtracks because it costs more to get that hit song. So they get like the B-side or the song that was thrown away for the album on their thing so they can get a big name on the soundtrack. And so, it's a sticky place that really I've always said the same thing. You can't afford it. Like I remember a guy asking for a Michael Jackson song and I'm like, no, like you'll never recoup the cost from this advertisement ever. No matter how successful it is by, having to pay, 30, 60, I'd imagine 100,000 or more.
Michael Jackson.
But and it's because artists don't make their content to be in commercials in that way. So they charge a high premium. But now, I don't know if anybody noticed this, but, Bob Dylan's recently sold his music and The Who and Red Hot Chili Peppers, and they've sold all their rights, right? So now you're going to see all this stuff in.
Right.
That's where you're going to see it because that's where the people that hold it, well, after it's out of the charts, that's how you make money. It's not album sales anymore. So it's going to be these license agreements. It's the same reason why there's so many flags on YouTube is because like Warner Music Group is got a fleet of people that are going around and claiming work because the pennies add up. And if you think about like a song on TikTok, like a lot of the TikToks are actually set to popular songs are those people making money every time the song is getting there? Now, I think a lot of times they benefit on the side.
They have a deal going with TikTok.
Yes, kind of, but it's the same thing as like Spotify or you know, they're not real great deals for the artist most of the time.
Sure.
And no, you know, it's not like they're reaping it, but regardless, that's something you got to pay attention to. So we've talked about music for way too long now.
Yeah. So let's segue over to images and video. And actually, there's a couple of dimensions here, one of which being fair use, but we'll hold off on fair use for now. But just photographs and videos, this maybe comes up a lot with still images that people might want to like pull off of Google search or something, Google image search.
Yeah.
I remember this happened a lot when I was working with clients where they would want some image of something and they would just send over, a Google image search like, hey, let's use this one.
And until the internet pictures were no longer big enough to use on the resolution.
Yeah, once resolution started going crazy. Yeah,
but anyway.
For sure. And then video. Actually, video is not so much a thing. At least it wasn't when I was doing TV commercials. Like people weren't trying to use movie clips in their ads or anything.
No, but I've seen some things. I mean, I've definitely had requests. What did I have? Oh, it was a guy that was doing a comedy tour. They wanted me to go get his act and cut it up and make a highlight reel commercial so that they could sell tickets. And it's like, well, did he say we could cut up his thing? And it's like, no. I was like, okay, I'm going to write to their management. And luckily for them, they totally got it and were like, oh, this is a promotion for us? Yeah, here's our stuff we have for you to do that with.
Yeah. Actually, even that can be complicated, right? Because actually, this has happened with musicians, but I've heard of it happening with comedians as well, where the comedian will say, yes, you have permission to use this for my act, but actually HBO owns the license or the exclusive license of this stand-up special for like 2 years or something. So you have to get their permission separately.
Yeah.
It can be sticky for sure.
And they'll make you pay up. I mean, you're just not going to get it if you want something and you're saying I want it, they're going to ask for the money they think you're going to pay them or what it's worth at least. And so, or the going rate. And, when it comes to a multi-million-dollar film and all that kind of stuff, sure, you pay it because it fits in the budget. But if your scale isn't enough, it'll never fit. And I can't say I've ever worked on a project that was big enough to consider paying up.
Yeah. Yep. So it all falls under the same thing. And you can consider, all of our advice about images applies to, all of our advice around music applies to images as well. There are sites that will sell you royalty-free imagery, photos and video.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that it's great because there's so much now. And now, just as much as you could look up a Google image, you can get a video clip for it. I mean, there's a lot of sites selling you stock stuff, and it's way cheaper than it ever was. I mean, it's still, you could find stuff that's charging you $500, huge amounts of money, but it's also about your usage. Mm-hmm. So make sure you're aware of how you distribute it because you want to buy based on that. Because there's no reason to pay $500 for that clip unless it's one very exclusive and the only thing you can get. That happens when someone owns the people that own the footage of the towers going down.
Yes,
they're going to be.
That's not public domain.
No, it's not. And so a lot of that stuff that's the thing you have to find that person, and that's how. Journalists used to make some of their money, or photogs that were with journalists, is like they would have a famous photo and people would come to the shop and go, hey, I want to use that photo in my documentary. Great. It's $10,000 or it's $600 or whatever it is, and now we have Getty who owns so much. So likely you can find a lot of those things, and a lot of photographers have sold their work to Getty and all the rest, but you can find a lot of stuff. However, I run into this from time to time as it just doesn't exist. Like I'll search for something. And it's like, oh man, there's not even anything around this, which usually makes me go, oh, maybe I should do that and put it out there. Yeah. But it's like usually only the places I'm looking. I'm sure I could find it if I was looking for it anywhere.
Yeah, it could be. And also your use might be extremely obscure.
Oh, absolutely.
If you do make it, maybe no one would want it.
I was looking for an image of someone putting on a lavalier. Surprisingly enough, I found 15.
All right.
Yeah, just a close-up of someone put on a lavalier. But I'm like, okay, video guys shooting video work. It'd be a different thing if I was looking for, a doctor doing, some surgery or something.
Yeah, like a doctor holding a stethoscope up to a brick wall.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I don't see that.
That's pretty obscure.
But I see that a lot in video work as a doctor.
Yeah. Yeah. So this tends to kind of bleed over to fair use, right? And which is, so YouTubers deal with this all the time, or people who are posting their stuff to YouTube. And this is like just an area where you actually can use copyrighted content under certain conditions.
Yes.
And those conditions sometimes it's kind of not exactly clear cut in a lot of cases.
It's argumentative for sure. I mean, a lot of things is not well defined. So if you actually are going up against someone, any sizable enemy in this case, I guess, or foe, that you're not going to be able to probably withstand them pushing too hard if you're not like trying to be very clear. You're being transformative, which is really the word there of fair use, is that you're changing the work so much that it's now a new piece of work.
Yeah, so the idea here is your work can't substitute the original work, right? Like no one, if they could say, hey, these people are not going to go to the movies to see the movie I made because they're watching your review, and they can basically watch the whole movie as part in your review. Well, that would be them making an argument that your work is not transformative. So if you show an entire film in your movie review, and then review it afterwards, after the film is done, that's not transformative.
No.
But if you cut it up and you're intersplicing criticism throughout, then it's transformative. No one can watch your review and go, that was the same as watching the movie in the theater.
Now, here's an interesting one. How I Met Your Mother, a lot of people didn't like the ending. So there was someone that took a lot of episodes and made their own ending using How I Met Your Mother's clips. Edited, new storyline, different episode, right? Not quite transformative enough. You're putting things in different sequence or stuff, but you're still not adding anything, right? You're just, all you're doing is reorganizing in any way.
Yeah, and that's one of those gray areas, right? And the main thing to remember with a lot of these cases, with anything copyright related, frankly, or at least with fair use, we're talking about two parties who are disagreeing about something, right? So there's the people who made the thing and the people who transformed it. And one party says it's transformative, and the other party says, no, it's not transformative. Well, nothing really happens until those two parties then go to court. One sues the other, they go to court, and a judge and a jury decide, is it actually transformative? There's not like people will point to YouTube as maybe a governing body that says yay or nay here. But these gray areas really are resolved that way. And so if you're an individual, you really have to decide, do you want to go up against the army of lawyers that Universal is putting together, or do you want to say, well, I was right, but I'm going to take it down anyways?
Yeah. And so it's difficult. You're saying YouTube, it totally makes sense. All YouTube does is go, you're not on our site anymore. It's not like they do anything else. I mean, they might, and you can't make money or revenue from this, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of a governing thing, but it's not like there's anything that changes for you unless all of your income came from that thing. And then in that case, I would say you were playing the system.
Yeah.
So that fair use. So here's good examples of it. You watch a scene from a movie. We say Videomaker cuts up a scene and is teaching you the composition of Wes Craven movies or whatever. We can, you'd stop, you'd say what you're doing, you point out things, you might have graphics, you're adding information so you're giving depth that wasn't there in the story itself. So you're adding to the work with your own original work. That's when it starts going on your own way. That's when it starts making a lot more clear it being fair use, right? It just, the more you can add to it, the less likely the other side has as much of an argument.
Yes, exactly. So Videomaker has run into this a lot. We've used movie clips in our videos as examples where we're illustrating a concept and we say, well, watch what the director did in this case. We've done that with TV shows. We've done that with still images. And we have been flagged for copyright violations a number of times.
Yep.
And every time we've gone back, we've appealed, we said, nope, this is fair use, this is educational content. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, every one of them has been reversed.
Yeah.
We've been brought back.
They would give us a strike. If you go, no, And this is the kind of weird thing about YouTube is like just arguing with them and then losing the argument. Now you have a strike against you.
Yeah.
Whereas if you wouldn't have said anything, you wouldn't have had any strikes. You just have the video down.
Yeah. Well,
Weird.
that's their way of making you making sure that you're confident in your position, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, not how we do the legal system in the U.S., but definitely more like Europe, right? Where if you're suing someone,
kind of how the legal system works in the sense that if you sue someone, they can counter sue for all the court fees.
for liable. Yeah, exactly. But it's not a given. Where in like Europe, liability, a lot of times the loser has to pay the lawyer, pay everything. That's part of the bill. Anyway, regardless, this is going on here. But the fair use is, so for us, we add on there. We haven't had any strikes, and we go, hey, but it's also been on the other side. We've had people using our stuff that YouTube has gone, hey, your stuff is in this person's video. What do you want to do? And it asks us. And whenever I'm in that area and I'm looking at it, I go and I make the judgment of like, well, how are they using our thing? Mm-hmm. And well, in the case of almost everything I've ever looked at, I think I've had maybe one video was someone talking about our content. So it was our content within their content. So they used us as like a chapter in what they're talking about. But they had a lot of other stuff that was there. Like, we could have said we own 20% of that video, but it had 200 views. And it was like, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
We don't want to, there's no reason to be upset about something that isn't making any money for anyone.
Yeah. I mean, it really comes down to like, how badly do we want to take these people to court? And if it's, I don't know, Nike or something, and they made $1 million off of an ad that features Videomaker content, well, heck yeah, we want some of that money.
Yeah. And it would be fair to ask for it.
Well, assuming that it's their work is not transformative. Although generally, while I would say that using intellectual property in an ad is kind of transformative, I think generally advertisers don't have that good luck.
Well, it's once you start making it a commercial product and you're trying to sell something with it, now you need permission. Now they're going to sue you for not having permission to use it. Yeah. And so it's not I don't know how you can make something transformative in a commercial that wouldn't be just using the original source or whatnot. So I mean, you could. Well, I see this, new ads for NBC, and they use a bunch of old clips from old NBC shows for the ad, right? But all the people that are in it, they might not agree with whatever's being proposed. So I saw one, it was like, I don't even know what it was saying, but it was Joey from Friends saying, yes. I'm like, what if Joey was actually like personally opposed to that? And now there's an ad with him saying yes to this statement, but that would be okay because he surely wrote all of his rights when he was getting paid the handsome money to do it all.
Yeah, so fair use is very, very sticky. There's a lot of gray areas. I would advise in this case, if you really are concerned about a particular instance of fair use, you should speak to a lawyer. But
yes, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, one example of this that it kind of boggles my mind. I'm generally very pro fair use. Videomaker gets a lot of benefit out of the fair use protections.
And it makes our content better by being able to teach from it.
Yeah. But one of them, which seems awful shady to me, not shady, but I don't know, not exactly up to snuff, up to whatever you want to say, is reaction videos, where there's a lot of great reaction videos where they'll play a video and then they'll pause and then they'll add some commentary and then they'll play some more video. Those are okay. In other cases, it's like, let's watch this entire episode of Friends together, and my face is going to be in the corner, and I'm going to laugh occasionally.
Yeah, I'm going to add to the laugh track.
Yeah, exactly. Like, is that transformative? I believe actually the courts have decided that it is, but it seems like in addition, copyright holder could contest that and probably win.
Yeah. What was it? Mystery Science Theater, right? They just had to watch a bunch of B movies because of the thing. Like they could. That's probably all the stuff they could get rights to, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody was like, "Oh, well, now that we can kind of get this stuff pretty easily by just downloading videos from places, you use that same format." And I agree with you. I mean, like, it would have to make the content more unique. If there was an objective, a learning objective or something, that makes sense. But if someone just commenting like, "Oh, I hate that color." Would that be enough? Like, I don't know. I guess.
Well, criticism and parody are protected. So I think actually if they chime in every once in a while and go, I hate that color, maybe that's considered criticism. But at any rate, the fair use has been pretty kind to reaction video people generally. So
Yeah.
at any rate, moving on.
Yes.
Let's see. We talked about what's considered transformative, but maybe the last topic we should discuss is copywriting and protecting your own work.
Yes.
Which actually is a lot easier than people think. The main thing to consider, at least in the United States, is as soon as you create it, it's copyrighted.
Yeah.
Like,
as long as you can prove that.
Yeah, exactly. And an easy way to do that, obviously, is if it's video. If you've uploaded it to YouTube, there's a date stamp on there.
Yeah. And you can upload it to YouTube private if you want.
Yep,
just
date
to have
stamp,
it there.
there's
Yeah,
date
just have it there.
Yeah, when you go to court, you can pull up the records and there it'll be.
And that was the idea. People, I remember, I'll just mail it to myself, so I'll have a date stamp, and that's great. But that's, if you're in a real heavy case and that's all you got, probably going to be a lot harder. We actually have a video that goes through all the different process, and you can actually file it and get your work copywritten. And I think it's more. You need to be more concerned about this, although you should be concerned about it always. But the idea that the people that had the footage of the towers, that they copyright it so that people don't just grab it and use it. And you go, no, that was mine. You need to pay me to use that, so you can prove when it becomes this thing that people want to use. So like the idea of my friend Brandon shot a car that was coming down from Paradise when Paradise was on fire, and the car was just burning in the intersection. It has like 200,000 views and has been used on all sorts of things, right? And so it's like, well, if there was a documentary and they wanted to use it, he, of course, I think made it open to anyone using it because he just wanted to document and have the world have it. But it's one of those things where if you own that and you were a videographer and that's or journalist, that you made your money capturing that kind of stuff, you'd want to protect it. Just like a newscast, a news channel would be doing the same thing with the content that they're putting out there. Although, of course, them broadcasting it then copyrights it because they say it at the end of the.
I mean, it basically just comes down to, can you prove that you made it on a certain day?
Yep.
And that's all it takes. And beyond that, if someone takes you to court, you got to be able to pony up the evidence. If you're doing the mail it to yourself trick, who knows, the lawyer on the other side might try to convince the judge or the jury or whatever that you forged the date stamp or the whatever they call it, the postmark.
Yeah, the disc you sent was blank. And now you have, or whatever, this looks tampered with, whatever. If you're holding that envelope for 20 years, how good is it going to look when you present it, all that kind of stuff. Right. So it could be proven or not proven, but it can be convincing that it could be something else. So you don't want to worry about, just put all your eggs in that basket.
There's also the whole thing, I don't know, Chris, you might know the story better than I do, about two works that are very, very similar to one another. And you got to be able to show that someone knowingly copied your work in their work. Yeah. So this was a deal with Stairway to Heaven, I guess, right?
Yeah.
This lawsuit that went on for many years.
Taurus, I think, or Tories. There's a song, and it was only a U.S. Court case, which is interesting. But it was a song that they thought inspired Stairway to Heaven, and they recently Led Zeppelin won, and that there wasn't enough there because the song, that's just like the opening riff or melody or whatever. There wasn't enough there that they could say that the whole song was in their eyes there, but. To give it fair, Led Zeppelin stole a lot of music from a lot of people, mostly American black blues players. But most of those they started paying for in the 70s or whatnot. But when they got sued, really, when it came down to it. So it's about how formative. But the thing is sometimes it can be cheaper just by getting permission beforehand. Sometimes if you really like a work and the artist, they might like the thing you're putting it in. Sometimes it might be about what you're putting it into. So like the Beastie Boys do not want any of their music in a commercial or anything like that. I think unless it's, a commercial for a book or their CD or something, their work. So they don't approve it for that, but they approve it for a lot of other uses for nothing because they don't think you need to pay for it. They just want you, okay, yeah, you can use it. Mm-hmm. And so, that's up to the holder of the copyright, I guess, to do that. So, you can be generous with your work as well.
Yeah. So the main thing here, if you're enforcing your own work is, you kind of got to be prepared to go to court, over it. You can submit if someone rips off your stuff, you can submit a cease and desist letter. And if they defy that cease and desist letter, well, you got to sue them.
Yeah.
And that's no fun. But,
yeah. It's so funny because on TV they make, suing and all that stuff seems so immediate. It's like if you want a restraining order, they think, oh, the cops came and they'll stay away from you. And it's like, no, it's not easy at all to get a restraining order on someone that's not in your family.
Yeah.
And so it's really, there's a lot of these things that you think you just immediately can go, no, like kind of how the response you can have on YouTube. And I think a lot of people now these days, that's where they're delivering their content. Mm-hmm. If they don't have a distribution channel of any kind. I mean, even up to really fine pieces of work. If you don't have a distribution channel, YouTube's a really fine way to get it out there. I think even Vimeo's that way. So you want to make sure. And the cool thing, like on YouTube, is you can say this is fair use or this is whatnot in the video, so people can use it or not, and so that YouTube, because they scan it and look for those same images and sounds and other people's work to make sure that they aren't uploading work that's not theirs.
Right. So maybe before we close out the podcast, we can just sort of summarize kind of the best practices that we follow, that we've advised other people to follow. Oh, this is not legal advice.
Yes. This is stuff we do to try to keep our butts covered.
Yeah, that's right. So first off with music, only use royalty-free music sites. Yeah. That's easy enough.
And it's all production music. So most of the stuff will lend itself to whatever you're doing. There's likely going to be a real huge selection, and it's well worth it. I don't know. Using someone else's song just seems expensive.
Yeah. Same thing with images and video. Use stock, royalty-free stock imagery, stock video if you can.
It's so
we
available.
Always do that. Yeah, exactly.
It's so available.
If you are going to use copyrighted material like movies or music, frankly, study up on fair use, and you should be very confident that what you're about to do is covered under fair use. You can use a popular music track in a video if it's transformative, if you're criticizing it, if you're not playing the entire thing uninterrupted, or even a chunk of it uninterrupted without criticism attached to it or without parody. But take a look at that. Videomaker has spent a lot of time looking into fair use, and we've concluded that our work is covered under fair use after consulting an attorney many years ago. So that's a really gray area. So be very, very careful there. And then, as far as your own work, just make sure you have a date stamp attached to it when you create it, which is impossible to avoid now with digital media creation.
Yeah, it seems a lot easier now to prove those kinds of things. But, like we were saying, you want to be above an easy argument. So, just make sure you have, if you find your work that valuable, and, you just have to ask yourself what can someone else gain by having this? And if it's, a huge amount, couple your butt. If it's, something that, why would someone else copy? Maybe you don't worry about it as much. I don't know. But it seems definitely something that if you have something of substance, make sure you cover and make sure your valuables are insured.
Yep, that's right. Okay, call it there, right, Chris?
Yeah, I think
All right.
so.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Again, if you enjoy the podcast, we'd love it if you went to iTunes or Spotify and hit the subscribe button. And hey, if you're an iTunes user, or an Apple Podcast user, I should say, it'd be great if you gave us a 5-star written review. That is also a big, big help. And you listen to the whole episode if you're hearing me now, so maybe that's an indicator that you did like the show. So for Chris Monlux and everyone here at Videomaker, I'm Mike Wilhelm, and you've been listening to the Videomaker podcast. We'll catch you next time.